there was a lot to chop up from that interview, or excuse me, that presser. And I think one of the number one things that people have made note of is per Mike McCarthy, the impending, we kind of thought this was going to happen, the impending retirement of Tyrone Crawford. Tyrone Crawford been with the team for 9 years since he was actually drafted by the Cowboys in the third round back in 2012. Is it a surprise? Is it a big deal? Is this just a logical step for somebody whose contract was up and hadn't been playing either particularly well or a lot?
I think whenever, dude, this is a physical sport, right?
Sure.
And that's something that guys' careers don't last forever.
Sure.
And I think that's something that we don't really take into consideration. But Tyrone Crawford had been injured multiple times for extended parts of the last 4 years now. Last year he was kind of able to make most of it, but
year before obviously he was out, and
yeah, he's had a lot of struggles, man. And so I think that just the mental preparation of, can I do it? Can I get back out there? Have I done everything I need to do? I earned my money, and that's enough. That's enough for me right now. So that's I think that's just the natural progression of an athlete, man.
Now, a couple of defensive notes that interested me is they asked about how quickly they had to get things done with Dan Quinn, and then McCarthy was like, well, I mean, yeah, but that's also in part because he was going to be very much in demand. So they had to make a quick decision because he was going to be in demand. And then on the linebacker front, McCarthy said he knows everyone wants to know more about LVE and Jalen in terms of who's the Mike linebacker, who's the Will linebacker, but then he essentially said he views them as interchangeable. Does that sound right to you guys, or any surprise there?
As in the players are interchangeable,
yes,
or the positions are?
I took it as the players are interchangeable, not necessarily the position.
I don't agree that those players are interchangeable, because Jalen can't do things that Leighton can, and Leighton can't do things that Jalen can. And when I think that Jalen's a harder hitter when he actually connects. I think that Jalen's top end speed is faster when he actually dedicates himself to running full speed to get to a place. But I also think that there are a lot of instincts that Leighton Vander Esch has that are very helpful. It's just his body is not holding up. Now, that being said, Kevin, again, go back to before Jalen was drafted, before his knee injury, I would say he was the exact everything you want at linebacker. There were things that held him back from there, and that have continued to hold him back from reaching what he was. Now, that being said, I saw Jeff Kavanaugh this morning say, somebody said which prospect was better, Vander Esch or Micah Parsons? And he said Parsons.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that conversation. As you look forward, you can't deny can I rely on the health of my linebacker? And you have to ask that question. And I think that's one part of where the Sean Lee continued conversations are.
Yeah.
And where do we go with the future at this position?
Because I actually just kind of assumed he was saying Sean Lee was going to retire, and then it was Tyrone Crawford, and I was like, well, and then they said they're having ongoing conversations with Sean Lee. Coach McCarthy also said they're having ongoing conversations about Aldon Smith. We discussed yesterday that various reports were that the Cowboys told Aldon Smith they weren't re-signing him, and that might still be the case, but McCarthy disputed the idea that was a done deal, and he goes, we just had a conversation about him yesterday. I think the logical follow-up should have been, was a conversation that you weren't going to re-sign him, and then you told him that, and that's why that report came out? But that was not the follow-up question that was asked. But he disputes the idea that Aldon Smith is not coming back for sure.
Yeah,
which I don't love.
I think that, Kevin, there's a possibility that he could be invited to the roster if nothing works out for him, and if money is light in his situation, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Hey, go explore all of your other options. and maybe we'll have a spot for you if money's there. Also, if it's true that some of this stuff was going on and you regress a little bit and the truth never really comes out, it'll look better for us. So, let's let these things float and linger around until all that stuff. That's where the deadline makes deals. Your deadline of when do you want to be on a team and how much are you willing to not take.
Yeah.
And then, what else is happening out there in the world.
Is there encouragement to be had from, and this is always a tough balance, is I know Mike McCarthy's not going to come out and be like, oh my God, I don't think Lyle Collins cares about football. I get that is very unlikely to happen. But what he said about the offensive tackles is that Tyron looks good and that Lyle looks good and is almost ready to go. Any encouragement?
Championship.
Yeah. Okay. But are you really
Yes.
encouraged, or is that just coach speak?
Almost ready to go. Now, I didn't hear that. Sorry, I stepped away for 1 second whenever he was talking about that. But so I didn't hear the way that he said it, Kevin. But Tyron looks great. He always does because he's freaking Tyron, dude. When have you ever looked at Tyron and been like, oh, he doesn't look great?
Yeah.
He looks great. It's just all the things that are inside that have been carrying around that huge body for all these years start to get a little wear on them. So I got a little concern there. Lyle Collins almost ready. Jeez, dude, it has been a long time for him to recover from this.
That's very true, and they said that they see the guys all the time or they're up at the facility almost every single day, but you are right. I know he had surgery and everything like that, but we haven't even started football activities, so I shouldn't say it makes me nervous. I would just much prefer hearing, oh yeah, he could play tomorrow if we needed him to.
Dead serious, though. If those two guys are playing this year, I think, and play the entire season, I think this team can win the division.
Win the division as in we get to 8 games, or win the division as in now we're jumping above?
I think they could get to over 10 plus is
Okay.
where I would feel comfortable. That's how important I think they are. Obviously, health across the board is another factor, like Dak staying healthy, but I think that's a factor in Dak staying healthy, and et cetera, et cetera.
Now, the conversation about one of their free agent pickups was Keanu Neal, and the thing that people immediately took note of, I took note of it as well, is that he said it's almost embarrassed to admit that you get swallowed up by a man when you hug, but he goes, Keanu Neal is bigger than you think, and that's what he felt like. I don't know
Reggie,
if
will you mark what Kevin just
Damn
said?
it.
Because
Feels
there's
unfair.
I
That feels
know.
unfair to do.
No, it's never unfair because we
Well, you
read
know.
fan texts all the time, and those things happen. So
that is very true. But I'm just curious your thoughts on that and your thoughts on Keanu Neal as a football player, but really what he said about what a man just swallows you up whole with that big hug.
that's how I felt the first time I shook Tyron Smith's hand. I've never felt like a little human because I've always been a big guy. And when I shook Tyron Smith's hand, I was like, holy crap, that's the biggest person I've ever met. But if Keanu, that's great about his size. Can he run? I mean, can he play the position? Can he process all the things that Dan Quinn is going to ask him to process? Can he be a Palomalu type? Can he be a Jamal Adams type? Because if he's playing safety at the line, kind of an extra linebacker, what was the old 52 defense, can he be that kind of guy that he's up at the line making big-time plays so that we don't get run all over, but also can defend in space? That's what I'm looking for. I liked what he was talking about, Kevin, when he was discussing the defense and wanting to play fast and how long it took them to get to that point last year. But once they finally did, he started seeing some things that he really liked. And that's what I think is the biggest task for Dan Quinn, is finding out who are my smart guys that can play fast already, and which one are the guys that need some help to get to that spot, because I need them ready to rock as soon as we go.
He also discussed their desire for length on the defensive line, because he was like, yeah, man, if you can be handing me 6'5", 6'6" guys that are 260, 265, and he said you've seen already with what they've done an increased focus on length